Lesson 38, page number 172, powers of sum, solving by factoring, and only 0 equals 0. Even though I can prove to you that 0 actually equals 1, but we won't go into that. So, no, actually it's just basic arithmetic. Okay, so 2x squared plus 3y, the quantity squared. That means I'm going to do FOIL in order to figure that out. This is the section called powers of sums. So what that actually means up there is 2x squared plus 3y times 2x squared plus 3y. All right, so what I'd like you to do is use FOIL and see if you can figure that out for me before we get going very far.
Oh,
So,
the whole thing.
that's right. Oops, I don't want that. So 4x to the 4th power plus 12.
But look, it's so small out there.
Okay, so the answer is 4x squared plus 12x squared y plus 9y squared. Does that look right to you, Jess? Boo.
Does it matter what order you put them in?
It does not matter as far as being correct, but it does matter as far as being proper. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so what's proper?
Okay. You start, usually you use your x with your highest exponent, x squared, and then no x's in that order.
Okay.
And usually when you have a variable other than x, like a y, the y starts with 0, 1, 2. So your y's go up in value, your x's go down in value.
Weird.
It makes no
I am
sense. But
confused.
anyway, don't
What
worry
if you
too
have
much
a
about it.
P?
If you have a P, then you probably have a Q. I'm serious.
And not right.
That's usually what they'll do, is have 2 letters side by side as your
Oh, so
variable.
you're saying like watch your P's and Q's?
No.
That's what you're going off of?
Okay, x plus 3, the quantity cubed.
Ah.
See if you can figure that one out for me. Okay, so your answer should look like x cubed plus 9x squared plus 27x plus 27. All we did was took x plus 3 times x plus 3 and did FOIL. And then once you got an answer here, you multiplied it by x plus 3 again. You're going to end up combining like terms and ending up with that 4-term answer there. Okay. When you're given problems such as negative x plus x squared equals 6, what have you learned in the past as far as how to solve something like that? Okay, heard square root. I heard I don't remember.
Don't you just subtract the x out?
Not
You
exactly
make
like
it
that.
equal 0, and then you do distributive, and then or not distributive. Then you factor it, and then you equal 0, and then you do something to like figure out.
You're on the right track. All right. Whenever you're given an equation like this, if you set it equal to 0, you can always solve for the x. Always. Maybe not by factoring, but there's one of 3 ways that you'll learn this year. Factoring you already learned. You'll learn completing the square, and you'll also learn using the quadratic formula, which you learned. Did you learn quadratic formula, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared times 4ac over 2a?
Oh, yeah.
Learned it?
I think
Actually, I
so.
learned it in 8th grade.
Oh, I did 2 weeks ago. Okay, so anyway, you can always find x, the value of x, but you have to set that thing equal to 0 in order to do that. So you bring the 6 over to the left, put it in the correct order, and now you have a trinomial set to 0. Okay. This is why you have to set it to 0. Is because when you multiply 2 numbers together to get 0, one of those numbers has to be what?
0.
Do they both have to be 0?
No.
Does it matter what the other number is? No, it absolutely does not matter what the other number is, as long as one of them is 0. We don't care what that is. Okay, very important, even though you know that, very important to keep that in mind as we keep going here. All right, so we're going to break that up into two binomials. First one being what?
X minus 3.
X minus 3
X plus 2.
and x plus 2. Positive 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. So that works. Okay. Now we're looking for the values of x. What we're looking for is what value of x will make that 0?
Oh.
3.
Oh yeah, I remember these now.
3 minus 3 is 0. What will this be if x is 3, like we said it was here? Okay. What is 0 times 5? 0. See, we don't care what this number is. You don't even have to figure out what that number is. As long as you can get one of those parentheses to 0, that's all you care about doing. So I have two parentheses here. That means I will have two answers.
E plus uno.
There he is.
What?
I don't have
Hey,
it.
what?
No, we have a question.
We had a
What?
really
Question
good
for you.
grilled cheese
What's the
sandwich.
question?
We had a really good grilled cheese sandwich 2 days ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
this
so
day.
we want to know what's the best sandwich you've ever had.
The best sandwich, I'll tell you the best sandwich I ever had. I was sitting in this hole one night out in front of the wire in Vietnam. It was dark and I'm waiting for the bad guys to come. And this guy comes down about 2 o'clock in the morning. He goes, Peter. Well, I figured the news didn't know who I was. So I'm over here. So he comes over and he gives me these 2 pieces of thick, kind of dry bread with 2 pieces of thick Spam on it. That was the best sandwich I ever had.
Was it nice out or was it raining?
No, it was actually not raining. And then he left and I stayed down there all by myself. Nobody came, so it was good. That was the best sandwich though.
Really, just.
I was really hungry.
Yeah, it's situational.
Situational, very much so.
Very much.
If you're on a camping trip,
Yep.
it's better.
Hey, that's
Let me give you
like
some
a
advice.
hiking trip.
Never cook Mountain House freeze-dried food at home for a meal because when you were camping it tasted good. Because it doesn't taste good at all when you're at home. Guarantee that one.
Some camping stuff tastes good. But,
It tastes so much better when you're on.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, candy bars taste good no matter what. But, you know.
Yeah, some of the food that I brought on the trip, I was like,
Okay, back to algebra.
me too.
So again,
That was a good story.
I know. Our key here is to find what is going to make either one of these 0. Not both of them, one or the other 0. So x can be a positive 3 because that'll make this one 0, or a negative 2 because it'll make that one 0. Now if we go back to our original problem here, and you plug those numbers in, you will get 6. So for instance, if we decide that we're going to try x is 3, negative 3 plus 3 squared equals 6. True statement. If we try negative 2, so negative 2, okay, so we put a negative 2 in there, plus negative 2 squared equals 6. We get 2 plus 4 equals 6. They will work. Okay? So we'll make that true. Now, here's another piece of information that you probably normally wouldn't get until next year. If you want to know how many numbers you're going to get for an answer, look at the degree of the equation. What's the degree of that equation? Do you remember how to find the degree? It's the highest exponent of the equation.
Yes!
So, we've got a 2 here. That means you're going to get 2 answers. If that were a 4, you'd be getting 4 answers. So it's kind of nice to know that up front. Okay, dang, I got 1 answer and it's supposed to get 3, so I must have done something wrong. Okay, so That's all you're concerned about. What makes this 0? What makes this 0? And actually, here's another free one. When you find out what that x value is, that's called the root of the equation. So actually what you're doing is you're finding out where this graph crosses the x-axis.
Is there multiple roots of the equation?
And it's crossing so you remember the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis? This answer is where it crosses the x-axis, and it crosses twice. So the graph of this thing is going to look something like this, because it's going to cross here and here. So, lots of information you can get out of that stuff. Yes, Tim? Or I mean, Caleb.
So when we're looking for the answer, do we need both the numbers that equal 0 or just the one?
You have to have both of them.
You hit the draw button again.
Yep, you have both of them.
You hit the draw
You hit the
button.
wrong button.
I did on purpose.
What do you guys do?
Okay. So, brings us to this one. Negative 35x equals 2x squared. Let's make that a negative. Minus x cubed.
Minus x.
Okay, what was that moaning for, Ben? Does it look that bad?
No.
Oh, okay.
You made it negative.
The bad line.
That's better when we switch it. It's awesome.
Okay. So, I have a tendency to try to move all of my numbers on left-hand side and set them equal to 0 rather than all on the right-hand side. So, it usually makes things a little bit easier for you. Plus, what it does, it gets your x cubed and your 2x squared positive. So if we were to move these over and put them in order,
Oh man, I'm tired.
okay. What do I do with that?
Factor out x squared or x?
X.
Okay, I'm going to factor out an x. And all I'm concerned about right now is that. I'll worry about that other x later, because how many answers am I going to get for this?
3.
3. Okay. So, I'm going to factor this. I'm going to leave that x out there. I'm going to put an x here and an x here, and what numbers am I going to put in?
Negative
Positive
7.
7, negative 5. Positive 7, negative 5.
Positive 7, negative 5. All right, so from that bit of information, I need to get 3 x's. So, what's my x in this one?
5.
What's my x here?
Negative 7.
What's my x here?
0.
Okay. That one's a
1.
little iffy. Who said 0? Thanks, Jess. 0 is the correct answer. Because it doesn't matter what these are. If this is 0 and you multiply it by everything else, you're going to get 0.
What about 1?
If you put a 1 in here, you get 1 times 8 times negative 4.
So what is the graph of
The graph of that,
It's all over the place.
it's going to be kind of like... I just made that up. I have no idea. But it is going to look pretty weird. It's actually going to go, it's going to come up above the x-axis below and then back up again, but I don't know what it's actually going to look like because it has to cross 3 times and 3 times only. Actually, I do have,
Would it be like a swirly?
whenever you have x by itself, that x will always be 0. One of your answers will be 0, which means your graph will cross at the origin.
What
Okay.
if that was like 2x?
What's that again?
What if that was 2x?
Like I said,
If this
if
was
they gave
2x,
you a
It would still be
X.
0.
It'd still be
X to the
0,
fourth.
yeah.
Okay.
Good answer.
Ugh.
It's a vacuum.
Yeah. All right.
They're trying to kill us there.
The last section of this, it says, bottom of page 174, only 0 equals 0,
except for 1.
Except 1.
except when it's 1.
I want to see that.
You should show us how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.